He's taking out. He has gloves.
He has gloves.
He has gloves
He has
in
gloves.
his hands.
He has gloves.
Gloves and what else?
The blanket.
Oh my God, that is my blanket.
Oh my God, call the police.
On September 24th, 2021, a 19-year-old from Florida went missing, and about a week and a half later, she was found unalived, nearly completely skeletonized. Her body was discovered with duct tape over her mouth and binding her feet and her hands. Her killer, an obsessed maintenance man from her apartment complex, was identified by family and friends as soon as she went missing. However, he was never held accountable because 3 days after she went missing, and coincidentally, right when police had finally identified him as a suspect and had an arrest warrant, he unalived himself. To many, this case seemed painfully obvious. The clues were there. Why didn't police act faster? And if they had, would Miya have been found sooner? Would justice have been served? This is the story of Miya Marcano. I am OhShutUpTrisha. Make sure you like and subscribe for all things true crime. Let's get into it. But wait, before I continue though, viewer discretion is advised. This video discusses a true crime case and may contain sensitive content, but the information presented is based on publicly available records and news reports and is intended for educational and journalistic purposes. These are stills from the last known video of Miya Marcano, taken on September 24th, 2021. It's from the Arden Villas apartment building security camera, where she lived and also worked. It shows her walking out of the leasing office and heading towards her apartment. Miya was reportedly supposed to be getting ready to head to the Orlando airport to catch a flight to visit her family in South Florida. Here we see her in a group chat talking to her girls about it. But she never boarded that flight and was not responding to calls or text messages. That's when her parents knew, something was up.
The relationship that we have it's like we communicate hundreds of times in one day, and to not be able to hear from her or know where she is, it's like really breaking my heart right now.
Now keep in mind, Miya moved to Orlando after graduating high school for college. Her mother lived in the Virgin Islands and her dad lived in South Florida. I believe Fort Lauderdale to be exact. Since her family members were not in the immediate area, they called 911 for a welfare check.
Orange County Sheriff's Office. This line is being recorded. This is Operator Winstead. How may I help you?
Hi, good night. I'm calling to find out if I can have a wellness check, please.
According to the police report, her mother told police the last time anyone had spoken to Miya was when she was waiting for an Uber to pick her up at her apartment, and that was around 5 p.m. But nobody has been able to get a hold of her since. A friend of Miya even stopped by her apartment, knocked on the door, and got no response. The first deputy arrived on scene to figure out what was going on around 9 p.m. He reportedly knocked on the door and tried to call Miya's phone himself, but also received no reply. So he waited for Miya's roommate to come home, and when she did, he asked her a few questions regarding Miya. Now, the roommate confirmed that there wasn't anything out of the normal going on with Miya. In fact, she knew Miya was supposed to be going to South Florida to visit family that evening, and she too spoke to Miya just a little bit earlier that day. The roommate let the officer into the apartment. Miya's room door was locked, but at the time, it didn't raise any concern because Miya often did this when she wasn't home. So the officer went through Miya's bedroom window, and this is when the question of efficiency starts to rear its head in this story. Because like I mentioned at the beginning, many question why did it take so long? Because the clues had been there from the beginning. So let's get into it. So like I said, when the officer first gets to Miya's window, the police report says that he at first noted that the window did not appear damaged or tampered with. And from his current visual, he didn't see anything out of the ordinary. Did you get that? When the officer went to share what he saw with Miya's roommate, he was asked if he saw Miya's teddy bear on her bed. And this is important because reportedly, Miya didn't go anywhere without that teddy bear.
Teddy, her little teddy bear who goes everywhere with her. Teddy goes with her to work. Teddy goes with her on vacation. Teddy's gone on vacation with other people when he needs time for himself. Teddy is a major key.
The officer could not recall, which is why he went back, but this time with Miya's roommate to see. The roommate, though, wasn't exactly alone. She was on the phone with Miya's family members, and at first, she couldn't tell if the teddy bear was there or not. But what she could see was that Miya's bed was not made, and anyone who knew Miya knew that that was not normal.
Miya's room is always meticulous. Our family is very serious about cleaning and making sure that you make your bed every day. Her grandma has instilled that in her, and she always makes her bed.
So the roommate asked the officer if it was okay if she could go in and take a closer look. Now, I want you to keep in mind, at the time the officer thought nothing was wrong, so he allowed her to go in. And thank God he did, because when that roommate went in the room, she noticed that things were very much not okay, because Mia's room was in disarray. The roommate noticed a small bookshelf was propped against the doorknob, seemingly to prevent someone from entering the room from the outside. The next red flag, the window. Yes, that same window, which the roommate and the responding officer used to get into the room. Well, that shouldn't have happened, because reportedly, when Mia's father moved her in, he had secured her bedroom window and all the other apartment windows with a locking device to prevent them from fully opening. The window should have only been able to open about 4 to 6 inches, meaning the roommate and the officer should not have been able to get inside. But that's not all. 3 pieces of Mia's jewelry were reportedly on the floor, and these were pieces her family said she never took off. And that teddy bear, yes, the one she reportedly didn't go anywhere without. Well, that teddy bear was in her closet. And her luggage was also still there. And get this, there was reportedly a small patch of a dried red substance on her pillow. The police report indicated it had the appearance of blood. Things were clearly not okay.
We said maybe her phone did die and she got on the flight, and then you're flying so you can't text, and then she's just going to show up at the airport. So my aunt did go to the airport, to Fort Lauderdale airport, looking for her to see, like, did she come in? We checked with Southwest. Did she check in at all? Because everything is tracked with your ID. So, but no, we didn't see anything. And once we realized that we didn't know anything like that, we had to come up to Orlando.
So next, the officer asked if there was anyone of significance in Mia's life. And that's when a name I want you guys not to forget first came up. And that name is Armando. Yes, Armando. A friend of Mia's told the officer that Armando was a maintenance man in the apartment building who had showed interest in Mia, but Mia did not feel the same way. Remember, Mia wasn't only a resident at the Arden Villas, but she also worked there. So she and Armando had to encounter each other more than a resident normally would. They were co-workers. And although he made advances and expressed interest, Armando and Mia were just friends. Because remember, she did not feel the same way and made that clear.
I'm a person that I'm very straight and to the point. If I tell you no and leave me alone, you should do that. And when I don't, some people will say, oh, you should be persistent. I don't like that. And Mia is the same way. This person's annoying me. I already told you no, leave me alone. And she's always very vocal about how she feels. She will tell them flat, if she's interested, not interested, she's just straight and to the point. No, I'm not interested. Leave me alone. She'll block you if she has to block you. Things like that.
So Armando's name is going to start coming up a lot more now, but let's get back into how the investigation played out. So after the discoveries are made in her room and her mother confirmed that Mia never made that flight, the responding officer enters Mia in as a voluntary missing person and told the family to contact the police again if they had more information. And he went about his way. A voluntary missing person? Now I want to highlight why this raised eyebrows. So a voluntary missing person is someone whose whereabouts are unknown. However, a missing endangered person is a missing person who's believed to be in imminent danger of physical harm or death, meaning the responses are very different. If a person is entered as endangered, it gets escalated to the Criminal Investigations Division, and a true investigation begins. So the next day, September 25th at about midnight, a security guard from the building made a call to the authorities, letting them know that he was aware of the missing person case and the findings, and he wanted to share what he himself was able to find after examining the scene. So he went to the window, y'all, and he was able to pull a fingerprint. Yes, a fingerprint from the window leading into Mia's room. And he wanted police to collect it as evidence. Well, reportedly, a second officer did arrive on the scene, but he told the security guard to just hang on to the fingerprints and closed out the call. To them, don't forget, Mia at this point was still just a voluntary missing person. And even though it seemed like they weren't taking it seriously, Mia's family was. So Mia's father and her family immediately made their way from South Florida to Mia's apartment in Central Florida to search for their baby girl themselves. So her family arrives and now are looking through her room themselves. And while there, her father reportedly made another chilling discovery. a yellow box cutter, which was found under a blue throw rug right next to her bed, which might I add, her family also noticed that bed was moved from its original positioning. So her father called police, who came now on scene for a third time. They took a picture of the box cutter and they took it into evidence. As the police and family are there, keep in mind, y'all, it's about 3-4 in the morning at this point. You'll never believe who also showed up on scene. Armando. Remember I told y'all his name's going to continuously pop up in this investigation. Yes, Armando Caballero, the maintenance man, who had been identified by not only Mia's friends, but also her family. As I told y'all, someone who made unwanted advances towards Mia, and someone who they also described as obsessed with Mia. Now, he didn't live in the complex, so why was he there again? Well, he claimed he was on scene because he heard from a coworker named Tati that Mia was missing, but Mia's family wasn't buying it. They pressed him, questioning who Tati even was, why he was on scene, and about some text message he sent Mia, where he tried to send her his life savings and other money through Cash App, even though she wasn't interested, and even sent the money back. Pretty much, they let him know that they knew he was obsessed with Mia. So this is the actual footage of that interaction. Take a look.
But no one knows Tati. You keep mentioning Tati and no one knows Tati. The roommates don't even know Tati.
You've been sleeping since 10
You keep
o'clock,
saying
and all of a
Tati is
sudden
a
you're showing
friend.
up here at 4 o'clock in the morning
because
looking
me
for
and
me.
Tati were conversating about it, so I finally, it came
Okay,
up.
but
Should I go
Tati
and
is
see if I
someone-
see anything?
No one knows Tati. That's my whole thing. Not
Tati
even the
is
roommate
an
knows
employee
Tati.
here.
She's an employee, but you keep saying Tati is a friend and that you've all hung out together. No one here knows Tati. All her
Well,
other
not
friends
all
showed up. Her
these
closest
people.
friends that live in the complex were all here with us early on. No one knows Tati. Only you. Whoever Tati is, and Tati's on the phone, she shouldn't even be on the phone right now. As of right now, you have
work
sent
tomorrow
obsessive
with
texts to
Tati?
Mia. We have all seen the text. You talked about giving her your life savings. You cash apped her money, and you claim that you weren't in touch.
Who told her
It's
gave her
on
life
text.
savings? I never
As a
said
matter of
that.
fact, we're going to get a police report to pull your phone records if that's the case.
What you trying to do?
There's evidence of obsession, of something. You're fascinated with
It's
me.
not only from my side, so don't try to make this
No one,
like I'm a
no one's
stalker.
saying that. It takes
She's
two.
not here to defend
There's-
herself right now,
obviously,
so we
she's
gotta talk to
missing.
you.
So we're talking to
And
you,
I
who've been going
completely
back and
respect
forth
that. I
on
understand
text.
that. That is your family.
Right.
But until we figure out what's going on, just don't beat me up.
Nobody
one's
ain't beating
beating
you
you
If
up.
up.
I'm guilty, why
But you
would I
put
come
yourself in the middle right here. You brought yourself over here.
Because we're concerned.
You're concerned. Why weren't you concerned hours ago?
I just found out.
All right, cool, no problem.
So
In
how
the
did
first few
how did
hours,
Tati find out?
We didn't think it was serious. I don't even know how Tati found out. She
Somebody's
told me
missing and you don't think it's serious.
Someone
maybe they
that
hanging out. They got this place right here. They go downtown. I don't know. Maybe her phone's off. I don't know what she.
She would use somebody's phone and call her dad or her grandmother, somebody.
she was supposed to show up for a flight and didn't show up. Officer, can I ask you a question?
So as we see in that video, police did speak with Armando. And according to the police report, Armando claimed that he knew about the accusations that Mia's family and friends were making against him regarding him and Mia. But he said although their first interaction was flirty, nothing more developed. He also shared that he last saw Mia earlier that day while working in the clubhouse. So as Armando was still on scene, the family reportedly makes another discovery. This time in Armando's back seat. They saw a screwdriver in a bag, a cell phone case on the floor, and a blanket. And this blanket is significant. We'll get back to it. So the security guard brought this up to the responding officer's attention, but again, nothing comes of it. After speaking to Armando a little more, they let him leave the scene without checking the back seat of his car. Yes, he was able to leave. But Mia's family wasn't just about to let Armando go. They followed him. And guess what they caught? Armando cleaning out the backseat of his car. And he carried out blue rubber gloves, a backpack, and a pink blanket, which the family recognized as Mia's. Take a look at this video they shot.
What is he taking out?
He's taking out. He has gloves.
He has gloves.
He has gloves
He has
in
gloves.
his hands.
He has gloves.
Gloves and what else?
The blanket.
Oh my God, that is my blanket.
Oh my God, call the police.
They immediately called police and police did respond. However, they weren't able to force a search of Armando's apartment without a warrant. But weirdly enough, a male family member of Miya asked Armando if he could just take a look around, and Armando agreed. But the family member didn't find anything, and Armando was cleared yet again. But the family wasn't letting up. So they called police again, and this time an officer that they hadn't encountered before responded to the scene. And this officer took their findings seriously. Everything from the way Mia's room was found in disarray to the family's hunch about Armando's involvement, including how they saw he had visible injuries to his face and what looked like bite marks on his finger. The officer knew something wasn't right and started to really look into it. He got a hold of the apartment's property manager, who confirmed that Miya worked that day and showed footage of her working in the leasing office, and also showed footage of her leaving the leasing office and heading towards her apartment building at about 5 p.m. The manager also shared how their apartment doors were equipped with key fob access. So the officer started to review the key fob logs from Mia's apartment and found something a little odd. Armando had entered Mia's apartment at 4:34 on that same day. Yes, the day she went missing. This was just minutes before she got off work. But why was he there? Because according to the apartment's records, there wasn't an active work order for her apartment, and maintenance personnel are not allowed to enter residents' apartments unless there is one. Nope, something wasn't right. So the Criminal Investigations Division was finally alerted, and a real investigation began. Mia's apartment was now considered a crime scene. Police canvassed the area, and the family and many other concerned members of the surrounding community continued their own search, and they also held vigils outside her apartment every night. Police started to interview people who were close to Miya, including a coworker who shared more with them about Armando's advances. She reiterated what police had already been hearing. Armando and Miya had never been romantically involved. However, he just wouldn't let up. She also shared there had been a flood in Mia's apartment just days before she went missing, and Armando had been the one to respond to it. Another one of the many people they spoke with was the apartment's maintenance manager, the one who hired Armando. Police noted in their report that he said, Lumel stated on September 24, 2021, Armando returned from lunch at approximately 1400 hours. At approximately 1422 hours, Lumel saw Armando when he came into the main office to pick up his new maintenance uniforms, and he left the office at approximately 1430 hours. Lumel stated Armando made a few jokes about receiving a gift when he picked up the box containing the uniform, but he noticed Armando's hands were visibly shaking. Lumel found this to be unlike Armando, and it stood out in his mind at the time. Armando was clearly now a person of interest. On September 26, police executed a search warrant for Armando's apartment, where they found the key fob that was used to enter Mia's apartment the day she went missing. They then were also able to issue an arrest warrant for Armando. Although it wasn't yet a homicide, they had probable cause to at least charge him with burglary to a dwelling, since he had entered Mia's apartment without permission. But Armando, well, he was nowhere to be found. But all of that changed on September 27th at around 10 a.m., 3 days after Miya went missing. A 911 call came in stating a body had been found in a maintenance shed at the Camden Club Apartments.
911, you need police, fire, medical?
We found a suicide on property.
It was Armando, hanging in the shed of his former place of employment. But still, where was Miya? Police immediately started to search everything. Armando's phone records, his social media accounts, his email accounts, and finally his car. Yes, the car that her family had been flagged. And that's when they found duct tape with long hair on it, which they noted in the official police report appeared to be in the shape in which it was wrapped around something and then pulled off. As more and more pieces of evidence were retrieved and analyzed, including his cell phone records and his GPS, police were able to determine his movements on the day Miya went missing. And here's what we found out. On September 24th, Armando ambushed Miya. As I mentioned before, police were able to determine that he used the master fob to enter her apartment at 4:34, just minutes before she got off of work. At 5:06, Miya then entered her home, and some type of struggle ensued, which is why her jewelry was everywhere. Now, it's not known if she was unalived in her home or if she was just incapacitated in some way, but we do know she was then transported out of her window and put into Armando's trunk. He then left the Arden apartments at 5:52, and it seems from the police investigation that he went home. But at 7:01, it was discovered that he called in a fake maintenance request. And it seems he responded to that fake maintenance call. Police noted in their report that they viewed him driving a golf cart from the area of Mia's apartment towards the front and side of the leasing office, which they believe was to attempt to create some type of trail of evidence showing that Miya was still active and moving around by taking her key fob and registering an activation on her door. At 7:11, he called the apartment office staff asking to be let in the gate, and police believe that this was his attempt to establish his alibi. At 7:16, someone uses Mia's key fob to swipe the exterior lock of her apartment, but they don't enter. Again, he was trying to create some type of trail to show that Miya was still alive. On September 25th at about 9:35 p.m., the last text message is sent from Armando's phone. It was a text he sent to his roommate as police were executing the search warrant on their apartment. Sometime between then and September 27th, he unalived himself, and through using his phone records on October 2nd, 8 days after she went missing, police were finally able to find Miya. She was found near an abandoned apartment complex called the Timer Scan Apartments. This was somewhere where Armando once lived, and where his phone showed he was at between 8:20 and 8:40 on September 24th, the day she went missing.
So good afternoon. Obviously, this is not the update that I wanted to give to everyone today. Earlier today, the Orange County Sheriff's Office Emergency Response Team was searching the area of Timber Scan Apartments that's off of South Texas Avenue in Orange County, and that's when they discovered a body we believe to be that of Miya Marcano. About an hour ago, detectives notified Mia's parents of our tragic news. Our hearts are broken. I told you Thursday that hundreds of Orange County Sheriff's Office personnel were committed to this case and working very hard. Everyone wanted this outcome to be different.
According to the police report, her body was found in a state of advanced decomposition. Police were able to identify her through her red purse, which contained her personal belongings like her wallet and her ID. The police report also says her body was found with duct tape wrapped around her head, her neck, and bounding her ankles and her wrist. Remember how they found duct tape in back of his car? An autopsy was conducted, but because of how advanced the decomposition was, they classified it as a homicide, but they weren't able to determine the means. But through the evidence, police determined that Armando acted alone in the kidnapping and unaliving of Miya. So a few things to note. As I mentioned at the beginning of this episode, to many, this case seemed painfully obvious. The clues were always there, but why didn't police act faster? And if they had, would Miya have been found sooner? From her friends and family naming Armando from the jump, to even looking at Armando's history. Did I tell you guys that he was kicked out of college for a prank? And listen to what the prank was: setting off an explosive while at school. And did I mention that he was also accused of throwing a weight through a woman's window? Guess who this woman was? A woman who lived in an apartment complex where he worked and refused his advances. Why didn't anyone look into this?
They gave him the master key to her apartment. He was in her apartment waiting for her when she got in there.
There was negligent entrustment. There was negligent hiring. So there is some liability on the part of this apartment complex. And again, we feel that had this apartment complex taken the proper steps, this person should have not even been employed at that apartment complex.
Mia's family ended up suing the apartment complex and settled. They also sued the police department for their initial dismissive behavior. They said not enough was done, even though it was obvious something was wrong. They called the handling of Mia's investigation wrongful. The initial responding officers were reprimanded and received unpaid suspensions for violating a slew of rules. Also, Mia's law went into effect in 2013. Now, this law means a few things. First off, landlords must conduct background checks on all employees. Landlords must also maintain a log for all tenants' keys. Landlords must also provide their tenants at least 24-hour notice before entering for any repairs. And did I mention landlords can now disqualify an employee who has been convicted or pled guilty to offenses involving violence or disregards of safety. Miya was laid to rest on October 14th. Her beautiful family has kept her name alive. They've also started a foundation called the Miya Marcano Memorial Fund, which supports and provides resources to families of missing persons and also advocates for the protection of students and those who are part of vulnerable communities. May Miya rest in peace. Thank you for watching this week's episode. Make sure you comment below, but also make sure you like and subscribe for all things true crime. I am OhShutUpTrisha, and I'll see you next time.